Hey now, and welcome to the Booker Corrigan Show here on YouTube. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch. It's a sullen week in the sport of lacrosse with all the cancellations. We're going to do our best to reflect on what was and try to help you get through what is coming. First and foremost, let's reflect on the seasons that some kids had. We're going to talk about the Mount St. Mary's Hopkins game that I was lucky enough to broadcast. We're going to get Bubba and Ric Beardsley on and talk about our lesson for this week. But the number one thing I want to start off with today is the honor that I had to do a lacrosse game with Quint Kesting. To sit in the booth at ESPN and do a game with Quint is absolutely a thrill. One of the things that I'm going to use a minute to discuss is this. 50% of the people in lacrosse tell me that Quint is a Hopkins homer. He loves Hopkins. He's always pro Hopkins. And the other 50% tell me he goes out of his way to bash Hopkins. He wants to prove he's not a Hopkins. And you can't have it both ways. And the majority of you, I think, are a little bit envious of the fact that Quint has created a position where he studies the sport of lacrosse because he loves the sport of lacrosse, and he is willing to do whatever it takes to help the growth and the expansion and the explosion of the sport of lacrosse. And you have to look back and appreciate the effort he's put in, the time he's put in, and the skill that he's developed. One of the people that, if I have a question about the sport of lacrosse, he's one of the people I go to. I think if you're going to sit back and bash Quint about something lacrosse related, I think it says more about you, way more about you, than it does about him. He's one of the kindest guys. He's a thoughtful guy, and he loves our sport. So let's make sure that we tread a little bit lighter on the anti-whoever campaign, because a lot of people are making their living through this, and they're going to be incredibly affected by the outbreak. That's where our lesson goes. That's where, the next thing I want to talk about is seniors on college teams. It's highly probable that your season is over if you're not, Ivy League already, NESCAC already, a bunch of other leagues have canceled their entire seasons. They have a bunch of smart people leading and making those decisions. And seniors, it's a very hard way for you to be taught the lesson that tomorrow is never guaranteed. And you're talking about lacrosse. You have every right to be upset. You have every right to be pissed off. But don't stay pissed off. Start to find a way to channel that energy towards something more important and something that honestly is for the greater good. And I'm going to get to what I'm doing later in the show when I get Bubba and Rick on. But life isn't fair. And there are things that you cannot control. When I was at Roanoke College, we had a guy in our fraternity named Mike Murphy who loved the sport of basketball. He blew out his knee his freshman year and was stolen out of the ability to play basketball. He rehabbed, came back stronger. And this is in 1990 when knee surgeries weren't as good as they are now. And he got back onto the basketball court. Mike Murphy was one of the happiest, most fun, and genuinely nice, positive people that I've known. He's playing in a pickup game in 1992, and he literally dropped dead because of a heart valve. Because of his knee injury, he had to get medically cleared every year. They never found the heart problem, and Mike Murphy lost it all. So think of Johns Hopkins freshman Jeremy Huber, who in his freshman year at lacrosse, he died of complications of pneumonia. And there's too many stories. George Moriarty from Cornell died playing the game of lacrosse. There's a lot of tragedy out there. So let's keep this in perspective. And again, you can be pissed off, but just don't act while you're pissed off, and don't make permanent decisions while you're pissed off, and then get over it. It's like grieving a little bit. There's going to be some stages, and eventually you'll get to acceptance, and then you'll start doing something for the greater good. And that's unbelievably important. But let's also always keep in the front of our minds how there's other things out there that are just a little bit more important than the sport of lacrosse. And there's people that make their living that are going to be affected in other sports, and they're going to feel it a lot worse than some of us. Let's get to the stars of the show. Let's go with Uncle Ric first today. Get him on. And then I'm going to have to add a call. Uncle Ric's going to be blown away that I called him before Bubba. Although he's probably watching, so I think it's not going to be a surprise.
What up?
Uncle Ric, you realize I'm calling you before I'm calling Bubba, which is a first for you, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to go ahead and add the call. Uh-oh.
Okay. You know how to do that? Good job.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Brian Bubba Burlace, here we go. Call, phone, and then I have to merge the calls. It's very complicated. I have to wait for him to answer. Here we go. Bubba. Hey, Bubba.
How you doing, Bub?
I don't know. Hey, Uncle Ric, do I still have you?
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. We got everybody on board. We were talking about the lesson this week about, losing stuff and that. And one of the things that I have come to know is that when God closes one door for you, it's because he's opening up another door. I was scheduled to work the Michigan Hopkins game, and that game is obviously canceled. It was March 28th. I am going to dedicate that time to helping up Mission and volunteer there. I'm going to donate a ton of clothes, and I'm going to do a clothing drive through some of my shows to make sure that we get a great outlook there. Ric, give me your impression right now of where NCAA Lacrosse is, and is there any chance we have a championship?
That's a great question. I've been really on top of it all day, especially being in the text group that I have with, a coach from Bucknell, a coach from Stony Brook, the president of USILA, high school coaches, ex-guys, all on this list. And, I feel where I first will say I feel bad for the kids of the Ivies, the kids of the Patriots, because they're seniors. And forget that the Ivies had, 3 of the top 5 teams in the country.
4 top 10s, yep.
And Michael Stowers was the front runner, at least right now, for the Tuarton Trophy. And then you got to feel for the guys down the street from me at Cornell, because Jeff Teat is really Pete going to have another opportunity to have a top 4 team. I hope so, but those down there these days come few and far between because of the academic stringent standards and the lack of dollars and cents down there at the Ivies. My personal feeling is it's awful for the kids. I think I am of the opinion that they should have suspended, not canceled, and moved on from there. But I do also see, as I hear more about the dangers of the virus and the CDC trying to maintain. I have an old teammate of mine, Mike Whittick, who's in the containment zone in New Rochelle. He actually lives right down the street from the gentleman who brought that positive test into this New Rochelle community. And he says it's kind of weird because there's National Guardsmen in his backyard, but also the weird part about it is they're still able to come and go. He works in Manhattan, and he's able to come and go. So I don't know what we're really doing. I'm not a political guy. I don't really play politics. I do think that, it does suck for the athletes, and, who's going to be next and what's going to happen. I mean, it's just all 14 conference tournaments are canceled right now. The breaking news. I mean, I'm watching ESPN all day. That's really what I got on it, man. I feel bad for the kids. I certainly want my high school season to kick off because I would feel awful for my guys if it didn't. And, I wish all those kids good luck in their new endeavors, and hopefully we can get this thing under control and back on track for college athletics, not just lacrosse, but all.
And when you talk about it hitting at home, our other guest, Brian Burlace, your son, BJ, I like to call him Maverick. He just had his freshman year at Yale.
Oh, I forgot about that, Bubba.
Yeah. Bubba.
Yeah, as you can imagine, he's pretty devastated. They had a heck of a team. They had a great senior class, and I think that's where, certainly at the Ivies in specifically, the seniors are the ones you really feel bad for. The Mike Morrells and the Gaudettes and the TDs and the guys that have really just put in so much time and blood, sweat, and tears and worked so hard that to get to this point where they had a legitimate chance at to win another ring and to go out on top. And that was taken away from them. But at the end of the day, I agree with Rick on a lot of what he said, and certainly, could they have suspended play instead of canceling it? Yeah, I guess they could have. I think but come Monday, I don't think anyone's going to be playing.
Yep.
So you suspend it, and I think you're just kind of delaying it. It's it's a terrible situation, but at the end of the day, some guys are losing, a year of lacrosse, and there's a lot of much worse repercussions about the virus going on.
But hold on, Bubba, I have a question for you then, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a parent. This is what I've always wondered. So obviously you're going, and you can obviously tell me to pound salt. I don't. It's okay. So you're putting you're paying a piece of his. I mean, it's not like that's free. You know what I mean? You work hard for your money. I know what you do. You have a very successful business, and you do a great job with it. And you've worked hard to get there. You've worked hard to get your kid. He's worked hard to get to an Ivy. Now, what do they do if they give him a year of eligibility back? Do they pay for that fifth year because you've already put in maybe $60,000-$70,000?
From my limited experience with the Ivy Leagues, they don't pay for anything, Rick.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
that's tough on a family, dude. That's tough on a family.
So yeah, you get the fifth year, great, but it's $75,000. And
yes.
Most of these seniors, most of the seniors at Yale, they've already accepted jobs.
Great jobs that are going to pay them great
jobs.
money that they can't take away, right? You can't turn away.
I mean, yeah, it'd be real hard to turn that away. I mean, and they all graduate in 4 years. I think probably some of the options, and I have no knowledge of this whatsoever about the Yale kids. I've only really talked to BJ briefly. I would assume a lot of Ivy League kids would look to, graduate and maybe transfer and get a grad degree somewhere else on a scholarship, so that the family wasn't paying another $75,000. But I think the majority of them probably graduate and move on.
And more power to them. I mean,
yeah.
All right, so let's go backwards and look at the things that we've seen. Uncle Rick, you alluded to the fact that the Ivy League had 4 of the top 10 teams in the country. Their Ivy League tournament was going to be a blockbuster. That's obviously gone. But those kids established something. They all had good seasons going. On Tuesday night, and what I opened the show with before I brought you two on was talking about the honor of being in the booth with Quint Kesnick and getting to do a game with him and how meaningful that was, and Mount St. Mary's making it an unbelievable game. I know you were watching. What was your takeaway from the Mount St. Mary's Hopkins game?
I mean, I got to watch I watched from the third quarter on. First of all, nice job, as always.
Thank you.
Quint is Quint. He's always done a great job. He's been doing it since I was in college. And my takeaways were Mount St. Mary's just, I knew Hopkins was going to win in overtime. Typically, the better team on paper wins in overtime. That's just the way it works. My takeaways lacrosse-wise were, there's a lot of good lacrosse players in the world. There's a lot of parity. But on the flip side, Hopkins isn't as good as everybody, has they been in the past. I really liked Mount St. Mary's goalie. I really like the quickness of Hopkins. They went in a completely different direction with they have small midfielders now. They don't have real huge ones like they used to over the past couple of years. But now St. Mary's, man, I mean, in the middle of nowhere, because I've driven past it, and it's in the middle of nowhere. But
They were tough.
Yeah, they were tough. And if Gravanti can get his own kid to go there, right? He's at Georgetown Prep, the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be solid. I mean, Tom's done a solid job. They're a team you probably don't – I mean, who knows who's going to be in the playoffs, but at this point, they're a team you don't want to get like Hobart. You don't want to get them in the playoffs. They play fast enough, and, I think Hopkins shot really poorly in the overtime. I mean, I think they should have just went to Cole Matthews every time. He was basically unstoppable. They should have just gotten the heck out of his way, except midfielders didn't move their feet. Did you notice in that last one-on-one in overtime on that timeout that they just kind of clogged the middle? Like, how about cutting those guys through,
Yeah, Cole Williams is definitely a talent, and he
Cole Williams, that's it. Sorry, Cole Williams.
He proved it in the fourth quarter. He stepped up. I've been fortunate enough. I've known him since he was 7 years old, just because I coached his older brother, Chad. Bubba, what was your takeaway from the Hopkins? Did you think it was a pretty mint call?
A really well-announced game. Well-announced game.
He went mint.
Throwing the Spalding line out there, and you were mint. I mean, you were on top of your game, Buck.
I was. And so one of the things that ESPN has charged us with doing, and unfortunately there's not going to be a lot more broadcasting games just because there's not going to be a lot of games, but do less better. And I hope you guys both noticed there would be a minute of play, and I would say 5 words during that entire 60 seconds. And, Quint would say 5 words in that same minute. So it was a lot of, let the game be the game. But then as Uncle Rick and you, Bubba, you guys both appreciate, I'm pretty woke when it comes to which side of the field you got to clear the ball. And yes, I did work the word mint into the broadcast, which was my only challenge.
You made the most of your time, Buck.
Yes,
no
I did.
Doubt.
Yes.
But yeah, I caught myself, and Rick, you were probably this. I'm assuming you were probably similar. I'm watching this game, and I'm, I'm like, man, Hopkins is going to lose to Mount St. Mary's. This is
I think that was 9-2.
This is great. But then I started, being close with Billy Dwan and Petro, and I was like, man. Then I found myself pulling back for Hopkins. And to be honest, I was it doesn't happen often, but I was glad Hopkins pulled it out for those guys.
Yeah.
And that was
you lose that game, there's a lot of stir going up on Charles Street.
And one of the things, it was weird because, we're going to get into the next stage in a second, but I was texting with Bobby Benson, who's the offensive coordinator. I love Billy Dwan. I love Petro. Petro's done nothing but amazingly nice and respectful things for me every time I've needed advice or counsel. But I was texting with Bobby Benson the next morning, and I said, hey, by the way, it was really an honor to get to broadcast your last game of the season. And unfortunately, that's where we very well may be. Even though the Big Ten and Hopkins and Maryland, Ohio State, all those Big Ten schools, they have decided to postpone or cancel everything up until April 12th, which for me sucks because I had Penn State Hopkins on the 11th. So I'm hoping that they bump that game, but I don't really see how they can do that. But this is what I want from you guys. What positively, because the kids, the seniors, I've cleared them. Go be pissed off. Go be angry. Be upset. Vent. Get it out of your system. That's where I was yesterday. Yesterday I was pissed. But now I'm starting to understand that this is bigger than just the sport of lacrosse. It's bigger than the NBA, evidently. So how do we what lesson can these kids, whether you're a senior or a freshman, what can you do with your time? How can you gear yourself into turning this into something positive? Bubba, what would you tell BJ to do with his time when he's not taking online classes for Yale?
Yeah, we're going to picking him up on Saturday, I believe, getting him back home, and he'll be taking, I guess, some of the most expensive online classes you can pay for. So he'll be spending his time on that. Booker, I liked your your idea, with some free time, help out, some people that are less fortunate. I think that's incredible what you had mentioned doing, whether it's the food or clothing drives. Can he do some volunteer work? Can he, work to improve himself? He's got a lot of time. Can he, get in the weight room, work out, get down on the field? It's just going to be it's such a weird situation because you don't know what. I guess you never know what tomorrow holds, but certainly right now you don't. Is the high schools, are they done? Like, I can't believe the high schools still haven't been shut down, where the NBA and the NHL are shut down, but the high schools are still open, and God, I hope they stay open. But are the schools themselves going to close? And there's just a lot out there, a lot of unknowns out there, and I think, like you said, Booker, be pissed off, be mad.
Yep.
He's had a couple days to, the teams, most of them are still up there. They're, hanging out and, probably having a couple cold sodas together and, spending a lot of quality time. And, it's just something abruptly when you're a senior and you lose your last game. It sucks. There's no doubt about it. But it finalizes it when you lose it on the field. You get beat in a game. It's over. That's the last game where, they were mid-practice when the athletic director came out and said that's it. So these guys, they had no idea. And, to their credit, their response was, okay, we want to finish practice. And, I think, Coach Shea was pretty emotional. It's a very, very tight group that, he's been to 2 championship games with those kids, and to see it end like that, very, very, very difficult. But I guess, you always try to look at the brighter side of things. These are really very talented, bright, smart, healthy kids that have an unbelievable future. So, if this is the worst, as Coach Adele used to say, if that's the worst thing that's going to happen to you in your life, you're living a pretty damn good life.
Yep. Uncle Rick, how about you? How can we steer these kids towards, getting through the grief to acceptance?
Well, number one, I agree with so many things that Bubba hit on, obviously. The positives that I would take out of it, if it was me just giving advice to my own kids, is you got to think about it, okay, now you can concentrate on your studies, do a great job, knock it out of the park. Not that you wouldn't try to, but now put the extra effort in academically. See if you can take some extra classes, right? See if you can get some extra, because the semester would end in May. You're used to staying on campus till the end of May. Maybe you can grab an extra online course. I don't know if they do that in the Ivies, right? But in other schools they do. See if you can grab some extra credits. Maybe look at it like, okay, I'm going to do real well. I'm going to get a 5th year paid for. I'm going to get my master's. Or I'm going to go somewhere else for my 5th year. You could have a kid who, like the Amherst face-off guy. Now, obviously, Amherst didn't suspend its season because we're finding out of the coronavirus, but apparently he's really legit. And that's a whole nother ball of wax to talk about. But, he's really legit. The kids can learn that maybe they can sneak a job. Maybe some of those guys can come home and Bubba, maybe your son learns to work at your business, right? Learns how to balance life and academics together. That can be a positive, right? And maybe he figures out if he wants to do what his dad does. He wants to be an entrepreneur, or he hates it. Family businesses.
Family businesses.
Family businesses. The one thing I've learned, I've worked for a bunch of them, and you can't get away at the dinner table, right? So that's the one thing about a family business. People think people stay successful because they have a family business. That's a lot more work and a little dynamic that you have to get used to being with. Because your dad will tell you really the way it is because there's no HR manager. And then, the big thing I would say is, hey, guys, just like, Coach Adele said to you, that's life, right? It's, your boss is going to walk in, and I don't know if it's happened to you guys, but it's happened to me for no apparent reason a bunch of times. September 11th,
Yep.
I was at EMC making $75,000 a year at 26 years old, living here in Syracuse, which back then was a spectacular living. And September 11th, hitting a month later, I was jobless. Did nothing wrong. So you learn to deal with the adversity life throws at you. And a lot of times this generation of kids has had everything. at their beck and call, at their fingertips. My own daughter included, Angela, our oldest. She's kind of spoiled, and it makes me want to, it makes me crazy because she just kind of everything's there. She wants a $1,800 backpack, she gets it. She wants, she needs lacrosse sticks.
Wait, did they make an $1,800 backpack, or is it $180?
Yeah.
Does it match your satchel, Rick?
No,
Yeah.
she's got a Balenciaga backpack, and then our youngest one, Viviana, she wanted just a regular $190 one, which was Lululemon. So I was really great on that one. And again, you're suckers for your kids, right? We all know this. I mean,
it's a satchel.
But
Indiana Jones
really,
wears one.
It's a satchel. But I really, that's the one thing I would take out of it. And also, Bubba, with this, with your son, he comes home. The one thing that's going to benefit others, if I live down in Baltimore, truth be told, or Long Island or a tri-state area, not here, I could run college clinics and make a boatload of money. I mean,
Yeah.
He might be able to now take it and get his training in, and then train other kids, as well. A little side business.
Yeah, 'cause I guess everything's up in the air, but
he's got to stay on point. He's got the U19s, right? He's got the U19s. He's got to stay on point. You guys should have some type of pickup, or there you go, Booker. Get a turf and do a college spring league.
Yeah,
those kids need to play.
I like the way you think. I like that you are very entrepreneurial.
That's a great idea.
I live here, and there's not enough kids to really support it. And there's a lot of lacrosse players, but I don't know how many people are serious about the way they do things, right? So
they're all coming back too.
Down there, what you do is you have a high school summer league. All the VL guys play against the CH guys, and then you do that league. You have your own MIAA alumni league. There it is, boys. I just gave you an idea.
You're on it.
There you go. Bubba's going to retire.
I want a 0.5% of a percent.
Do you know anyone that can print the jerseys?
Yeah.
I will do those. That is where I will do. Yes, there it is. Bubba, you're so good, Bubba.
I got you, buddy. I got you.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, that brings me to my closing point for today is the last piece of advice for those kids that just got their season ripped out from them. And I feel for you. And I understand, I can't say I know how you feel, but I can tell you how I feel about it. And it's upsetting. But the advice I want to give you, find something valuable to do with your time. Find some meaningful way in which you can connect with other people and build a stronger foundation of relationships. My sister is a 4-time best-selling author on the New York Times bestseller list. Now, I'm not kidding. I know you guys think that I'm definitely the dumbest person.
What do I have to type in? Corrigan?
Loves her.
Yeah, Kelly Corrigan. She's a genius.
I'm typing it right in on Amazon.
Yeah, and
she's
hold on a second.
Real deal.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me more.
Tell me more. It's the best book. If you want to read about me, Uncle Rick, get the book called The Middle Place. The Middle Place. She tells
us. There it is, The Middle Place.
Yeah. She tells the story in chapter 12 about my junior prom. She was a freshman and my brother was a senior, and all three of us went to the same prom. So it was, and we'll leave that for next week. But one of the things that my sister Kelly has told, she's on the Today Show all the time. She says,
"What?
Oh yeah,
she's the real deal."
I gotta look this woman up.
Yeah,
I don't believe that you could even have someone, because just based on your intelligence, Booker.
I walked right into this, didn't I? I walked right into. So one of her big chiming points is that relationships are what life is about. Being able to honestly connect with somebody. One of the things that I've started to do probably about 3 or 4 years ago is when I'm talking to somebody on the phone and we're ending the conversation, I'll say to them, "Hey man, I love you. I love for you." However you say it to them, but it means a lot to them, but it also helps it soak into you as far as how you're connecting with them and how you're helping them feel better about the relationship that you have. And hopefully they're going to pay it forward and find someone else who they might be. You don't know what battles people are fighting. We don't know what's going on in people's lives. Now, the three of us we're the three best friends that anyone could have. But we
Listen to me. Are you
Of
kidding me
course.
with this picture that you're in these shorts and this green thing with your hand up next to George?
Oh,
your mom
God,
and
yeah,
dad?
that's me.
What the heck
That's
is
at the
this?
Noke. I was at the Noke. I drove up from my
What
brother.
was that? What are those shorts?
Oh, dude, come on, man. That's like
that-
19. That's 1985.
You need to TBT that one, the throwback.
Oh yeah. Today is Throwback Thursday too. I will. I'll get Sebastian Martinez is literally the world's greatest producer, other than Adam Coppinger, who Cop's a great one too. But he does this show better than anyone. That wraps us for this week. We are still gonna do this show whether there's lacrosse or not, because we have greatness within us. Cool.
Hey, what happened to Doc?
Oh,
Dude,
we'll get
Doc-
Doc. Doc couldn't
He's
do it
on-
this week. Doc couldn't
Oh,
do
On
it
a
this
golf
week.
course.
He's still sleeping.
Do you understand he's on a golf course? He called me the other day. He's like, yo, I'm going to play golf. And then
I tell you, there's nothing wrong. Enjoy the day. Tomorrow's not a guarantee.
He's got
Yeah.
it figured out. That's
Yeah.
the man.
He definitely does. Brothers, I love you, and we will talk
Hey, boys.
next week.
Love you, boys. Later.
All right,
Good
you
luck.
got
See
it. It really doesn't get much better. And again, I know there's a lot of lacrosse people watching the show, and your seasons were out of your control. And you were geared towards something, and now you're not going to have that chance. Put that energy, put that effort and time and focus into some other endeavor that's going to mean something. Years from now, you're going to be able to look back and say, I did this. Binge watching The Office is not one of those options. Build those relationships that you have with your family, with your best friends on the team, and with that new kid on the team, with the guy that may not sit at your lunch table every time in school. And that's, the high school kids. I know that there's a huge pecking order as far as lunch table and who gets to sit with whom and when and why and what the topic is. Find a way to make it a positive. Find a way to pay it forward just a little bit. And like I said, I lost a couple paychecks on this. It's not going to end my financial life, and that's fine. But I'm going to find a way to dedicate and volunteer some time to doing what I'm doing. My girl Tanya McGrath is supposed to, I don't know what travel's going to be like on March 27th, 28th, 29th. I don't know what travel's going to look like. But hopefully she will be up here on the 27th. And on the 28th, we're going to take 3 or 4 or 5 bags of clothes to the Helping Up mission in downtown Baltimore, because I love what they do. I love their message. My great friend Frank Kelly, one of the original great face-off men and one of the original great face-off teachers, turned me on to the positive energy at the Helping Up mission. So it's certainly worth my time. And instead of sitting around on March 28th feeling bad about not doing the Hopkins Michigan game, which I was really looking forward to doing. I was going to do it with Ryan Boyle, who, other than Uncle Rick and Bubba, I tell you what, I'll take Ryan Boyle. Quint's amazing. Ryan Boyle's amazing. We're blessed to have so many great people in the sport of lacrosse. But Tanya and I are going to spend time at Helping Up mission because it's a better use of our time than sitting around feeling sorry for ourselves. No one ever got better that way. That wraps it. And for Sebastian Martinez, my main man, I am Booker Corrigan, reminding you, you only get one shot at today.